All right, the time is now 6 p.m. Welcome to this meeting of the Granite Falls School Board. First, I would like to make a motion that we remove the study session from our agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Moving on, I would also like to make a motion that we excuse Director Dane from this evening's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Please stand with me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will hand it over to Director Giesler for our land acknowledgement.
Thank you. We honor the first peoples of these lands by acknowledging that the area in which we gather is within the traditional territory of the Stillaguamish tribe of Indians. The Stillaguamish people have inhabited these lands and waters since time immemorial, and their descendants have remained in this territory to this day. The Stillaguamish people have continued to practice the traditional ways of their ancestors of fishing, hunting, and gathering. The Stillaguamish tribe has had these lands and cultural traditions passed on to them by their ancestors, who believe that everything has a spirit and that they are the caretakers of these lands and waters.
All right, thank you. This evening in attendance, we have, tell me how to say Gochner. Yes,
Correct.
I just know him as Eric. Director Gochner, Director Ledoux, Director Carey, myself, Director KK, our Superintendent Dana Giesler.
And our new.
Oh, our new student rep, yes. Can you tell me your name?
My name's Lexi Shulman.
Lexi Shulman, welcome.
And Lexi and our other student rep will be sworn in at our next meeting. Our other student rep is, as we speak, playing a volleyball game.
Okay.
We'll wait till next week.
Perfect.
Thanks for being with me.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to open it up for board comments. Who would like to begin? Eric, would you like to begin? Any comments?
Nothing right now.
Okay.
Cool.
Director Ledoux?
Yeah, so start off, great seeing everybody at Railroad Days. I'm in the booth for a little while there. We gave away a lot of Smensels. Anybody that was
Yeah.
there knew that we had, I've since learned, scented pencils, not smelly pencils. Smelly pencils don't.
That's not the right way of saying
No,
it.
it doesn't have the same ring to it, but no, it was great to see everybody out there. It was very well attended. There was so much going on out there. And then yes, welcome Lexi. I'm excited to have you on board here. And then also just nothing immediately close to us, but it's just with Helene and then Milton, right? Those aren't my aunts or anything. Those are very large hurricanes, one from a few weeks ago, and currently, as we sit here and speak, are passing through Florida. I have family right in Orlando, and for all my knowledge, they are safe and good to go. They're very far inland. It'll be a very bad storm for them, but people on the coast, right, are seeing 15-foot surges. So those barrier islands are effectively going to be underwater. It is just a reminder of, we always have our differences, but at the end of the day, we all live together. And right, so any way, I guess my ask here too is, if there's any way to help those individuals that are in need, I would suggest going out there, donating time, effort, letters, something along those lines. If you can't do anything along those lines, let's spread that, internally within the town as well too. So let's get off my soapbox.
My turn?
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. Well, great to have you here, Lexi. Your role and the role of what's the other student rep?
Natalie cover.
Matt. Okay. Natalie?
Natalie.
Natalie. Okay. All right. Wanted to make sure I heard that right.
Mhm.
Your roles to me are one of the most important roles on the board, quite frankly, because everything that we do is to give you students all the tools they need to be successful and to make sure that we're keeping student voice at the forefront. So I encourage you to be courageous about the things that you're passionate about. I encourage you to engage in ways. If there's anything I can do to support you, or anything that you don't understand, or playing double dutch trying to find your place, let me know, because I think that of all of the high performing boards that I've seen in my time, they always had really good student reps. They made sure that the student reps voice was heard and was part of the conversation. So good to have you here. The other thing I don't want to turn that what I just said, which is very positive, and then follow up with a negative thing. So I'll just paraphrase. You can't open up the paper here recently without seeing school district closing down schools, or superintendent, or these huge turmoils that these districts are having, and some of that legitimately is based upon the state not funding schools the way that we need to be funded, and the rules are kind of written against us to be able to provide adequately meet the needs of our students. But the thing that I guess makes me feel even more solidified in the reason I'm here is, doggone it, that's not going to be Granite Falls, right? Like, I am passionate about this district. I'm passionate about the people in our district, and I don't want that drama here, because in all of that, students are getting left behind, or not getting their needs met. And certainly the road is challenging, and it's difficult to make all of the things work, but we have to find a way to do that. And I guess as many challenges as I know we have in front of us, I feel like we are addressing them all in an appropriate way to the best of our ability, so that we don't slide into that turmoil and stuff like that. So that's all I really wanted to say.
I'm gonna kind of piggyback on both Director Ledoux and Director Carey. Went to railroad days. It was a lot of fun. My kids had a great time, and we got some schnitzels too, so that was awesome. Always love that. Another thing that was really fun this week was that at the school that I work at, Granite came and they played them in volleyball. And so I was walking my class to dismissal, and I saw all the Granite girls in the hallway, and it was really exciting. And I was like, go Tigers. And then I was like, oh, go Lions. And so it was a lot of fun to cheer on both of them. And it was neat to see them in the hallways. And I got to tell my class everything, they were like, how do you know them? So anyways, that was a lot of fun. I wanted to welcome Lexi. Welcome. That was one of the things that Director Carey said, was to be courageous. And I want to encourage you to, on the wall of my classroom, I have 2 expectations, and that's be brave and be bold. And so I encourage you to be that here. We are here for you. That's why we're here. We're here for students. That's our main thing. So we're here to support you, and we're here to listen to you and listen to the things you have to say. So be brave and be bold, and welcome to here. So it's exciting. Do you have any comments today?
I to observe and listen today, so I'm mainly watching how this all goes down. I'll probably have to write down all your names because I probably won't remember.
That's
them.
okay.
So, but yeah, I'm gonna write them all down before I leave, and I'll study them as a test. So, but I'm pretty good with speaking up about how I feel about things. Sometimes it bites me in the butt, but I can hear barking. I am pretty bold myself, but I know what is right and I know what's wrong. So I will do my best to be who I am, as I like to say.
Awesome. Well, welcome. We welcome. Moving on then to, I scrolled down. Where are we? We're at
Superintendent report 5A.
Thank you.
5A.
Thank you. This is 5A superintendent report.
All right. Yeah, we have a few things. We have some slides. Thank you, Corey. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. I may need you to play. There's a couple of videos. So a few things on the superintendent report as we go through. Director Carey has mentioned to really, we want to hit on a little bit of safety and security every board meeting. So I want to touch base on that first. It looks like we are, you know what, Corey, you're going to have to probably run. I don't think I'm able to get an angle.
Okay.
Oh, it moved.
I think
It
he did
moved.
it. I think
Oh.
if you could go back to the first slide. No, that's okay. It's all good. There we go. Perfect. All right. First of all, communication, safety, and security. We have made a pointed effort to communicate with our staff and our families. We've had 7 editions of the staff news and 7 editions of the family news. Both come out on Fridays. They are rich with a lot of information of what's happening in all things and teaching and learning side of the house. But in our staff news, of course, communicating with our families. That was something that was said by the board and our staff and our families in the superintendent search process. And it's of value because we want to be pretty transparent in all the things that we do. So thank you to the team that sits at the back table and the team that sits right beside me because they really lift that significantly. It's something that we're all working on and getting that information out and being consistent and clear and concise in that. And then the nice thing about the staff news is you can access to back editions as well. If there was something that you need to go back and reference. Onto safety and security. So a lot of significant work around safety and security and the action steps we're taking there. So one of the things I've established with our partners in EMS is a monthly walkthrough of a few of our buildings. We started in the end of September on the 25th with Granite Falls Middle School, Crossroads, our early learning, and then the district office here. This is all really considered one because it's in such close proximity. So it's kind of the Alder Ave campus, if you will. And that was reiterated when a couple days later, I had a security specialist out here and he said the same thing. He said, yes, if whatever you're doing at Crossroads needs to happen at the middle school, if there's a lockdown or an evacuation or whatever. So on those walkthroughs, and thank you to Granite Falls Fire and then also our police, as we walked through, and these are the oldest buildings in the district. So that we knew that there was going to be more issues in these 2 buildings. And we were able to address some of them right away. As you see, the hall out here is much clearer than it was. And so walked through every classroom and really, put heads in and had some communications and those kind of things, but took a lot of notes. And also we want them to be very familiar with our buildings, the entries and exits, and had some really good conversation with Principal Maynor over at Granite Falls Middle School. There's been some significant improvements in the pickups and drop-offs, but there's a lot of points of entry. And so we're talking about how to shore that up a little bit. I can't say enough about having, 4 people that are at EMS come and spend, 3 hours walking through our spaces. I really appreciate that partnership. So 2 days later, Lane Erdman, who is the school security specialist in Edmonds, volunteered his time and went through, he was here all day. And we went through every building, not every nook and cranny, but every building, but he was able to provide some insights, even around the vape detectors and how to adjust them and, and actually did a hands-on right then. And so it was really nice because all of our building administrators got to meet him, some work on our emergency plan. There's lots of things. He's given us lots of resources. And so that is some of the next work we'll be doing is revamping that and shoring that up so that we can get that out to staff so everybody knows where to go when. A quick review of the drills at each site. We are reviewing those monthly. By law, every school building has to do one of the 3 drills listed below, the shelter in place, evacuation, or lockdown. And we review those as there's a document that is submitted then to Paris, and we make sure that we are compliant with that for the obvious reasons that we all need to practice it and those kind of things, but we also need to be in compliance with the law. And then lastly on this, there's a drill next week on October 17th. It's the Great Washington Shakeout. It is an evacuation drill on 10/17 at 10/17 in the morning. So hopefully it won't rain. As we know, it's important that we practice earthquake drills. I think I heard on the news that Mount Baker had 6 earthquakes last month. They were all 2 or less, but they were having like 1 every 2 years. So, there's some activity that's ramping up and we need to be aware of that. Moving on to the next slide. There was an ask by you the last time we talked about our Washington State report cards for comparison around our report card versus Washington State and broken down by race and ethnicity, and is that impactful? And Paris will share these slides out with you so you can dive into this a little bit more, or it's available on OSPI's website as well. As we dove into this and discussed this a little bit, it doesn't seem to be that in a couple of categories, there seems to be an impact, some disproportionality with race and student performance. In a lot of areas, there's not. Our students of color are outperforming our students who are white in several categories. But there's a lot of data on this slide. I think the more significant piece of it that we are coming back to is concern over our overall ELA scores, our math scores, science, we're close to the state average. But as a school district, we are performing well below the state average, and that's the focus for us as we go forward, is putting things into play, shoring up our core and the interventions that we have, so we can meet the needs of our students and have those outcomes. I would like one more quick thing. If you do go to Washington, the OSPI, the Washington State report card, it looks a little bit different, and we didn't know that was going to happen. That was a surprise to all of us. A handful of superintendents in the state knew, and most of us didn't. And it's a little bit different. You'll see two different things. We can go into that at a study session and unpack that a little bit. It's about some, basically they've tried to deem it if you're a 3 or a 4 that you're college ready, and you probably won't need remedial classes in college. I think that's a tough call to make at 3rd grade or 4th grade, but we'll leave that where it is. It was, the SBA and the Smarter Balance people gave some feedback, and so you'll see 2 different scores and 2 different percentages. The school improvement plans are actively being worked on, and I would love for Emily to just briefly talk about this. Emily has worked really hard to shore these up and to get them all in one font, all in one, in one package. And you will be receiving a hard copy and a digital copy for your reference, as you will want to look at all the school improvement plans.
Thank you. Next slide, please, Corey. So a lot of words on this slide, but basically a school improvement plan is our yearly marching orders. And the process that we follow is that each building conducts a comprehensive needs assessment. They look at student data and they create a plan together, usually leadership team, building principal, and they come with their marching orders for the year. And those have been completed. What you see here is the timeline for 2024 and 2025. And this year, for a variety of reasons, you'll be receiving the school improvement plans in their final form at the end of this month in 2 weeks' time. I want to thank the building principals at all of our buildings and the leadership teams for their work with this. It is a lot of work, but it is important work because it is the design for how we are going to move student learning forward. What I want to illustrate here is that basically what you're seeing is today we are up to speed. We got all of our school improvement drafts done and uploaded to OSPI. That releases funding for us. If we don't hit those deadlines, we don't get that funding, and that funding pays for teachers, it pays for resources and materials. So we are copacetic today with all of our submissions, and right now I am awaiting final revisions from principals, and I will get those school improvement plans to you for your review for October 23rd meeting. I am spending some time making certain that they're readable. They come to us out of an OSPI template, which is sometimes people get a little bit bougie with how they choose all of their fonts and their colors and their background things. So I'm making them super streamlined for you and easy to read. The expectation is that you'll take a look at those. You'll ask any questions that you might have to me, which I will, of course, support you and answer. And then those will be uploaded. They're public documents, and so they should be uploaded to every school website and also to our district website. What I want to illustrate below is that this is pretty late. There are some deadlines for those funding pieces where we hit our deadlines, but it was right on the money. And moving forward, I think it's good stewardship for us all to push forward those deadlines, provide the time for principals to conduct this leadership closer into the spring so that we're in draft form by the end of the school year, so that we can be working on these funding submissions earlier on, just to move the process, just to shift the process a little bit more so that we have the appropriate think time for every bit of the process. So that is what you see here. We're hoping to get school improvement plans to you for the 25-26 school year by September 10th, 2025. So just pushing our process a little bit so that we're not scrambling in August when we might not necessarily have staff with us to get these very important pieces done. Do you have any questions for me?
I do. So previously, we would review the SIPs in the building. And the building admin team would, present them and talk about them and stuff like that. Is that still going to be the plan?
You want to get them in front of you so that you have them, and maybe even a study session would be in order, and let you feel and let you look at them, all of those kind of things. And then as it's my understanding that in the spring, then people would go over their school improvement plans. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
And their progress on them. Did you all get a copy and go through them when they're finalized?
No.
Okay.
So,
Which has always been kind of I'm probably going to still Director Ledoux's thunder. It's really like, we have no say. It's like, here's what we're doing. Okay, right? How did you perform last? I feel like more of like a checkbox kind of situation.
well, and for me personally, it's much more like, if I can see the goal that we're charging after and I'm aware of it, it gives me a lot more information than when board docs comes out and there's a slide that shows me what they were planning and how they've accommodated or how they've measured up against it. If I know that much sooner, right, I can look and say, oh, these are great goals, all good. Why are we doing X, Y, Z? Maybe some things could be adjusted. Again, I'm not the educational professional, but my job is to make sure that if we're setting certain goals, that we're achieving those goals.
So this will allow that. So you'll have them, it'll be in a little 3-ring binder, tabbed by school. So you'll have the chance to peruse those, both, like I said, paper copy and electronically. And then you'll know where we are.
Yeah.
And then as we do walkthroughs in buildings, as we do school improvement plan discussions, as students present, all of those things, like everything's tied back to those overarching school improvement goals.
That's it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. This is now on to the fun stuff. So I just wanted to highlight our child nutrition team. Linda does such a nice job of leading that team. And you all know that child nutrition is near and dear to my heart. I had a mom who was a cook and then was the food service director. So they just do such a great job of being creative and staying within these crazy guidelines that they have to stay within around food service. So they have been featured a couple of times, and I hope this works. I didn't load these in because I couldn't figure out how to do it. So thank you, Dan and whoever did that for us. But twice they were featured on the news, and I want to be clear that one of them also talks about Edmonds. So I promptly sent it to the whole cabinet there and told them how much better our food service is. So that's the chatter that happens at 5:30 between school administrators. That's how nerdy we are. All right, go ahead, Corey.
Of our school lunch forecast. Let's start up in Edmonds Bible District. Hamburger with cheese, also called a cheeseburger. Sandwich with string cheese. There you go. Shoreline, that's Aaron's old district. Hey, chicken nuggets with Cheez-It crackers or vegetarian chili cheese Fritos. Huh? Culottes having taco nachos. And would you believe it? We're gonna head up to Granite Falls on this Friday for the very first Pizza Friday.
Very excited about pizza.
Pizza Friday, everybody. It's our first of the year. Been waiting all this time. Making all the little English muffin pizzas all summer long. So we're gonna get there. Now we're finally here. This is where we're doing it big. Doing it up in styles. Thank you, Granite Falls. Moving to down.
All right, and then the second one is.
Can I just ask why Pizza Friday is a big deal?
Well, because
Right.
there's been such a tradition of Lynn being so creative with all the things that she does. The news loves her
Yeah.
and loves Granite Falls.
Yeah.
And so it's just, so the best part about that story too is all I said was all the cabinet from last year, and somebody has gone to Shoreline. And so then she sends a picture of the chicken nuggets with the Cheez-Its. She's like, because she's an elementary principal, she's like, well, there's our chicken nuggets and Cheez-Its. It's not Granite Falls pizza, but okay, so it turned into this really like funny, And then we have the next one that was actually last week.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just didn't know why the news.
For between and barbecue teriyaki with brown rice. They always are very creative with their names over there at Granite Falls. I love it. Edmonds is having chicken
And just Edmonds.
Shut up, Jay. Let's corn dog or Mediterranean flatbread pizza. Love that. Sounds good for bewitching option. I'll tell you what, it does make it. The name makes it sound better. It says part of the appearance. It's part of the display. It's everything. So we could have the was it bewitching teriyaki? Is that what they want to try? Bewitching, yeah, bewitching. I'm spooked over here. It names every meal for the entire month, so I can't make sure more. Oh, Granite Falls, you were great. I want to do this entire menu.
So we've had some nice attention from our local news, and so thank you to our child nutrition team. All right, there are quite a few upcoming district and community events. We mentioned Railroad Days was this last weekend, my first Railroad Days. Started off with our alumni breakfast. That was a fantastic event. A huge shout out to our culinary students and our staff who got up really early to make the breakfast and be there. So nice to meet so many alumni. We had the oldest, I did a little talk, and our oldest alumni and our youngest alumni that were there, I had them get up, they took this picture and they put it on their Facebook page, but they also gave me some advice. And the advice from our oldest alumni, who is a 1953 graduate, he said, well, I have to tell you that I should have graduated in 1952, but in the middle of my senior year, they changed the graduation requirements on me. So, and I was like, so don't do that. As a superintendent, I'm not going to add, graduation requirements during someone's senior year, right? But he was absolutely lovely. I actually met him again at the parade. I'm going to interview him for a little something we're going to do. And then we had a newer graduate there as well. And then in the parade, with lots of students in the parades, our cheerleaders were there, our band was there, they won one of the awards. Crossroads won the award for the floats. I was a judge, and it was so obvious who the winner was. They did such a good job. And the picture of the Crossroads, some of the Crossroads students, are you in that picture, Lexi? Yeah, is up there. It was fantastic. And then a shout out to an alumni named Jim Cool, and I think that might be the best name ever. He, after I spoke and was talking with some alumni, he said, I'd just like to make a donation because I'm an alumni. I care so much about this community. And he gave a donation, which he said, could this go to like our, like science and arts? And I'm like, that sounds exactly like STEAM. So we'll figure out a way to do it. I just basically handed the check to Marshall because I don't want to do anything with make sure Marshall has that in his hot hands. But thank you to him, and others came up after and were like, we'd like to make some donations and take care of our kids and those kind of things. They do, the Alumni Association does such a great job of garnering dollars for scholarships and all kinds of things. So a huge thank you to them. The next thing is, we've talked about this just a little bit. Our student voice is so important to us, and our student advisors to the board, but there's a lot of kiddos out there who have a lot to say, and we want to know what we're doing well, want to know where we can improve. So we have, I've created a Tiger cabinet, and thank you to Paris for a lot of the legwork on this. Our Tiger cabinet applications for grades 3 through 12 will have up to 4 students per grade level and school, and we will pull together 6 times a year and do some just some things with it's really cool because you have 3rd graders and you have high schoolers and you have 7th graders, right? And do some activities and those kind of things and hear their voice. So I would love for the board to join us on any of the dates. I can get you those dates. They're also available on our website. If you know anyone who might be interested in that, we would love to have as many students as possible. The meetings will be at Granite Falls High School. We only have to transport, a handful of kids, just Crossroads students and Granite Falls Middle School students. So that is helpful. We can walk over our students from Monte Cristo. Our Success in Education Awards will be at the October 13th board meeting. We are moving that meeting when it's Success in Ed to the Granite Falls High School Performing Arts Center for a little more space and a little more formality. So be ready for that. Those the nomination forms will go out soon. The WASDA conference is November 21st through 23rd. I know that Director Dane is unable to attend. Paris does have reservations and registrations done for all of us. If anyone's unable to attend, please touch base with her. And then also let us know your travel arrangements so we can support you.
Are we taking some reps?
We're not taking student reps this year. In talking to WASDA, there's a training that our student reps are going to go through, and we want to have that done prior to. So more to come on that. I would love for our student reps to be a part of Tiger Cabinet also. If they'd like to be.
Sounds like a side effect.
Yes. Okay, and then just some quick things. There's lots going on at our schools, our elementary schools. There's a number of things listed there, but just for your reference, if you'd like to attend any of those, or if that's a building that you're attached to, you can take part in those things. And our second page of upcoming district and community events, we got homecoming week next week at Granite Falls High School, a dance on the 26th. Back to the elementary page, just really quick. There are two things. There's on the Friday before the 31st, there's a trick-or-treating event on that Friday, but a special event on that Sunday from 2 to 4. We need more volunteers. There's a sensory aware trick-or-treating opportunity. And if you would like more information on that, I'd be happy to get that to you. I know some of us are going to attend that. All right. And then there's a lot of fall sports going on. And there's a big home cross country meet this weekend, 25 teams, 6 races, starts at 10 o'clock at Granite Falls High School. A couple of pictures of our cross country runners down there. We have some kids working really, really hard. Cross country is such a cool sport. One of the best team sports I've ever seen. And then of course our varsity volleyball, girls soccer, football, then middle school sports as well. I've been able to be at 2 sporting events this week. Monday night, I was at volleyball. Last night, I was at soccer for senior night. And it's just really fun always seeing our students do what they do best. So just appreciate those opportunities of being out. It's really fun. Our volleyball team on Monday night beat a team they haven't beaten 7 years. So the athletes are pretty excited about that. And that's good stuff.
Awesome.
Any questions on all of that? I think that's it.
All right. Moving on to item 5B, business report presented by Marshall Burr.
So I threw on there presented just in case we wanted to walk through the data. There's a lot of data that I provided about enrollment and choice transfers. So I wasn't sure if you guys wanted to walk through it all or if you guys wanted to soak it up on your own. Walk through it.
Yes.
Walking through it.
So good.
So the slide you see every month, I do the enrollment on my board packet. It's just a snapshot of this is our October count. So we did grow by 20 FTE from September to October. It's a trend we tend to have. Didn't grow quite as much as last year, but we're at 2244, which is 37 below budget, primarily in our kindergarten class. We had a small kindergarten class this year. I think we all kind of thought it was coming. There's been warnings about birth rates declining and stuff like that. We haven't had a lot of building in town because of the building moratorium. We tend to get younger families that move here when there's building going on. So we kind of thought that it might happen. We held off on hiring like we always do. So we're staffed appropriately for the number of students we have. One of the nice things about being a smaller district is we can pivot pretty nimbly when we have to over the summer. Couple of things to point out. We've got a pretty academically inclined junior and senior class at the high school. We have 38 FTE participating in the Running Start program. Last year we had, I think, 18 or 19 FTE, so it's almost twice as many, and that's getting college credit while in high school. That's the junior and senior class, just really trying to get a head start going into college, which is an awesome thing. But it does impact us a little bit because they're getting credits from other places rather than from Granite Falls. We still tend to lose kids at the high school level, and you can kind of see some data on that in the choice transfer section. A lot of reasons why kids choose to go up to bigger schools. I think it's a common problem for smaller school districts like us. You go to a bigger school, you can have 3 options for foreign languages. You can have a bunch of computer science classes. You can have more arts classes. You can have more AP classes. Those things tend to happen. And there's some data following about where these kids are going and why they're going other places. And we'll know that our FTE will continue to grow as the school year progresses. Crossroads and Open Doors grows as the school year progresses. And we also have this worksite learning program where kids can get credit for being out working in our community, they can get some credit for that. And we don't count that until the end of the year. And that'll be about 8 FTE that's going to be added to our FTE. So really, when it's all said and done, if nothing else changes, we'll be at 2252, which will be 29 below budget. Next slide. Next slide, I did a breakdown by school just to compare this year to last year by school. Mountain Way is smaller than it was last year and smaller than budget. Everybody else is pretty close to right on target. Crossroads and Open Doors will grow by the time their average will be 200 by the end of the year. But I think Corey's clicking me. So we expect Crossroads Open Doors to be on target. All the other schools are pretty much on target. It's just we saw that kindergarten class be really small this year. Next one, Corey. So this is kind of a breakdown of, I know we talk a lot about students with special needs. This is kind of a breakdown of how our special education classes are at the different schools. K through 12, Mountain Way has the highest concentration. It is our top 3 grade bands are all at Mountain Way. Mountain Way is at 27.6% right now. Everybody else is a little bit lower. Crossroads, a little higher, but that's the nature of Crossroads, is trying to help a lot of different kids with needs get through and get their high school diploma. And just a note that Running Start isn't included in these high school numbers. So the special ed percentage is inflated probably by like 1% because of the Running Start not being included. So action steps, mentioned that Crossroads and Open Doors are going to likely finish the year at budget. We're working on kind of rebalancing staffing to accommodate where the enrollment is. We're better utilizing Title and LAP to provide more direct supports to more students, especially at the elementary schools. October count is still below budget, but it is not including that 8 FTE of worksite learning. And then we're going to continue to build systems that provide students the least restrictive environment for their learning. And then at our last board meeting, we talked about wanting to have a kind of a deeper dive into our choice transfers, who's coming here, who's leaving here, why they're not attending school here. So the next 6 or 7 slides are kind of breaking down that. So there's broken down into 2 sections, the choice outs and the choice ins. We have students that choose to come here for school from another district, and we have students that who live here that choose to go elsewhere. So we have 536 students that live in our district that choose to attend school elsewhere. It's a pretty even distribution through all grade levels. Highest would be 8th grade and senior in high school. And I broke it down by school. Mountain Way has 119 students choicing out, Monte Cristo 120, middle school 137, and the high school 159. And then a little bar chart that kind of shows you graphically where each grade band is for students choicing out. And then the next one is where they're choicing out to. The table has a listing of every school that our students choose to choice out to. The graph breaks out, the top 7 categories and lists everybody else in other. But as you can see, Arlington is number 1, and then Lake Stevens, Monroe, and Snohomish are all getting around that 70 to 85 students, 70 to 90 students are choosing there. The next slide has the reasons. So these reasons are hardwired into the enrollment system. So these are the reasons that when a family wants to ask permission to attend another school district, they ask the neighboring school district if they can choice in. We have no say in whether they choice out of our district. The neighboring district can say we're full, or we can't accommodate you. You must go back to your resident district. But the main reasons are things that are somewhat understandable. couple categories, like the parent is a employee in the neighboring school district, they want to take their student with them to go to school there. Or the bottom two are very much linked to enroll in an alternative school program or to enroll in an online school program. When I dive even deeper into that and see what those programs are, those are mostly dedicated online academies that they're choosing to attend. And they're just, I think the parents have the option to choose either of those categories, but they refer to the same thing. It's an online academy. That's
OMAC school district, for
Yeah.
32 is Washington, it's a virtual academy. Yeah.
yeah. And is there one in Monroe or something too that?
I just.
I don't-
read this
yeah,
OMAC,
yeah.
so it seems so
Yeah.
interesting, right? That they're enrolled in OMAC school district.
And then the choice transfers in by grade, we have 71 students that come in, and they're heavily weighted to the high school level. And I know that we have been getting students from surrounding districts choicing in because they want to eventually play sports here, or participate in extracurricular activities that they may not have that ability to do in their resident district. Moving on to the next one.
Can I just ask a question real quick? Just going back to the choice transfers out by destination. Have we ever had a conversation? And I'm here, been here the longest, so I can say I've never been with like Arlington, Monroe, and I've talked to Snohomish, but Arlington, Monroe, and said, what your, like, do they have any limitations? I guess this happened at Lake Stevens, where all of a sudden Lake Stevens, right before they were going to run the bond, they started saying denying choice transfers and stuff like that. I guess I'm just curious to see if Arlington or Monroe, like, what's max capacity for them? All right, are they at the point where
Yeah.
they're? I guess I'm just curious to know, because I mean 150 students at Arlington, that's significant. And I know that they've tried to run a bond a couple of times.
Arlington's running the capital levy right now because they are there at space.
Right.
So, and I have a meeting with their superintendent tomorrow. So.
Yes.
One of the bigger categories of why students choice out is geographically more convenient to the neighboring school district. And our borders are kind of weird. They going out 84th and going out towards Marysville, Arlington, our borders go so far out towards Arlington in some places that it's actually probably closer to Arlington schools out at like Trophy Ponds and stuff like that, out that way, that I mean, they don't have transportation or anything, but it is probably closer sometimes for them to go to school in a neighboring district. Not to make excuses. I mean, I think we should be the school district that everybody wants to come to, because they can do whatever they want here. They can have every experience they want to have. They can have small class sizes because we have smaller class sizes than anybody around us. They can participate in more extracurricular things. I think we should be the destination for all these communities around us.
Yeah, the way I see it is, and I'm sure this isn't like what you're trying to say, like, we need to approach this as not a how do we stop people from leaving, it's how do we attract people to stay and come. Because when I look at the choice transfer out reasons, the number one is students' educational condition would likely be improved. When I see to enroll in an alternative school program or to enroll in an online school program, you could almost, I mean, you could lump that into that same students' educational outcome would be improved. Right? So I mean, that's 200 plus students right there. Then there are others where when you look at, yeah, in terms of location, we can't change that. But the location, you know, may alter their desire to go to Granite again if they have a belief that educational outcomes will be greatly improved, you know, at Granite. And so I think it's good data, you know, to look at. And yeah, whatever, I know it's boiling the ocean at this point, but you know, trying to make it a place of, it's a destination. It's not we're not trying to create a chain or leash or something like that, so.
And I mean, since the day I started here, I firmly believe that Granite is a destination waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Next one, the reasons they choice in, it's similar. I mean, there's the parent or guardian is an employee of our district. Students' educational condition would likely be improved, and we have kids that do choice into our alternative program. So those reasons are more choicing into our alternative program here. And then I also included homeschool, because homeschool isn't a choice transfer process. Homeschool is completely different. And on top of the choice transfers that we have 122 students that are registered homeschoolers in our district. And there's kind of a breakdown by grade band there also. Certainly more in the mid elementary level than in the later levels. I think possibly it's much easier for a parent to or a group of parents to instruct on elementary level subject matter than on calculus or physics or plant biology or something.
Yeah.
I'm wondering too if that has to do with COVID kids. It
Yeah.
seems like a big group of COVID kids that got used to, yeah, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, that whole
Yeah.
group was kind
I
of.
agree with that too. Yeah.
Well, and I'd be curious to see, not giving homework or anything, but like if we look at year in and year out, right? Because we see the class sizes, you can always move one number to the next year
Yeah.
every time. And that, like, does that happen with this number, or do we constantly see it like 8th grade, the number drop from like 17 down to 8? Because once you get into late middle school or high school, the parents say, okay, now it's time to matriculate into public.
October board meetings are kind of quiet for my business report. So I think maybe it's a good pencil it in or ink it in for an enrollment dive every October, and we can kind of then start building some trends also.
Yeah, because I mean, if it's something, I mean, it's like if that were actually the case where, hey, there's, typically, half of the students that were in 7th grade homeschool, come through. I mean, that's for enrollment projections and everything.
Yeah.
That's another 8 or 9 kids to throw into the 8th grade class. So.
Next one, then a little summary. We have 535 students that choose to attend a different district than their resident district. We have 71 that come to us from different districts. Noting that there's 109 that choice out of our district for online school. In addition to that, we have 122 students who are registered for homeschool, and that represents 68 families. So there's multiple kids from some of those families. And then based on those numbers, I just kind of calculated, we have a resident K-12 population of 2,830 students at this time, subtracting out the kids that are choicing in and adding in the kids that are choicing out and the homeschoolers. So, that's nearly 600 students that could be going here.
That probably doesn't include private school kids either, huh? We
Probably
have
not,
more
yeah.
of those too.
That's probably some other metric to
Yeah.
find that. Because they don't have the choice. They don't have to fill out a choice form, I
Yeah.
don't think. Yeah, I'll see if I can figure out how to find that
I
information.
don't know how you would, but
Yeah.
that's a lot of work.
I mean,
Good luck.
one of the disappointing things, we had a kind of a seminar meeting planning session at the ESD last Friday. And one of the things that we discussed is there's really not an easy way to compare districts on metrics like this. I mean, it's really a deep dive into each individual district. So I think we're gonna, for next year, we're planning on setting up some kind of data depository for agreed upon metrics and data that we want to be able to compare across the state. And so I think we're going to grow that in the next year and hopefully have some much easier ways to compare. So I'd be curious what Sultan looks like for these stats, what Lakewood looks like, what Marysville looks like right now. I mean, it'd be nice to understand what these, but it's such a hard, deep dive into the underbelly of Skyward to get this data that, and you can't see anybody else's data except your own. So I think we're going to work to build some common storage area for data.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, moving on to 5C. Board reports, WIAA.
Yeah, as far as, I mean, Dana took a lot of the glory with her community events and whatnot. So I mean, I would just go out and say again, right, supporting the kids. It's fun for you. It's arguably more fun for them to look up into the stands full of people. We have some really good teams this year. And if nothing else too, I've been a football parent and stuff too. The Friday Harbor game this Friday, if you were required to be there, for instance, for things, our daughter was in cheer also, and we had to go up there. It might not be as fun if it's like a forced function, but if you want to get up to Friday Harbor, it's beautiful. And then you have to want to go see a football game as well. Stay the night up there. I'd recommend that. That game's this Friday. Volleyball's happening tonight. I don't know what the score is.
We're down 2-0.
Oh, no.
Very close games.
Yeah, and then soccer tomorrow at Shoreline. So obviously, yeah, a few of those travel. But I think volleyball, I mean, they're having 2-3. You can go see them 2 or 3 times a week. So, you know, recommend getting out there. Like I said, it's fun. And I actually sat with Dana at a volleyball game not too long ago, and she's all expert with volleyball. I learned a lot from her, but I have never seen so much cheer and enthusiasm from a single team as when you watch volleyball. They have handshakes, they have high fives, they have dances. It's phenomenal. It's amazing to watch the energy that's within that. And they're also really good. So I would just encourage you to get out there and support. It means just as much to them as it does to you to watch. So.
Ledge report.
Yeah, so this coming week, Friday and Saturday, we have our WASTA Legislative Conference where we review the prioritization from General Assembly for the priorities for advocacy with the legislature in Washington, and kind of put together kind of how we're going to approach it, and any insight on any bills coming up and stuff like that. So I have kind of the inside track on what that prioritization was. So number one was full funding of basic education, yay. Number two, very close, was support for special education programs. Next was MSOC funding. Next was amply funded staffing levels, and the fifth was transportation funding. So basically, that's going to be the priority. That's going to be the priorities of this legislative session by WASDA to really advocate as much as they can for those 5 things. So I'll go down on Friday late morning and work with the rest of the ledge conference representatives to really get together our game plan for attacking these as best we can. So
Thank you.
Yep.
Community report. Anything? Okay, sounds good. Okay. Oh, yes, Marshall.
Can I add to the legislative thing real quick? I'm sorry, Carl. On the 22nd of October, the Snohomish County Council is having their full council meeting on impact fees. And I will likely be going to speak, and it'd be great if board member or anybody would want to come and speak also. I can get you guys the time. It's the day before our board meeting, but it's October 22nd. And it's the full council is going to be hearing or weighing in on the recommendation from the planning commission to not renew impact fees going forward. And these are very important to us and all of our neighboring districts, that impact fees be a part of how school growth is funded. And I've reached out personally to our representative of the 39th, who is also a county council member, and expressed to him how desperately we need those impact fees. And so I've certainly advocated for Grand Falls on that.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6A, items from the floor. Do we have anybody? It's not, okay. Moving on to item number 7, new business. 7A, first and second reading to adopt policy 3242, closed campus.
No, just Carl's in mind. I moved this one over in front of us, but
I think Eric's is off too. Not that I necessarily.
Here, I'll put this.
Here's
in.
my phone. Is this on? Oh,
That one's
here.
I'm gonna keep that. Okay, we're gonna keep these. I'll just take this one.
Okay. We'll just talk a little louder. Okay,
Dana, I'm sorry, are we in discussion?
yes.
Okay. Do you have any insight on this one, Dana?
I do. The next two actually are tied together a little bit. So we had one policy that combined, sorry, I'm going back to the agenda. We had one policy that combined both of these, and WASDA's recommended is for them to be separate. So student driving and closed campus are two separate policies, and these are exactly as WASDA has written.
Can I ask our student rep, what do you think about closed campuses, open campuses, stuff like that?
Honestly, I really think it depends because it's different for, because most of the time it's for high schools, obviously, so it's very different between Crossroads and high school. There's a lot more students that drive at a high school than there's drivers from Crossroads, so it's very different when it comes to the student driving. But then the closed campus, I know that Crossroads is very welcoming when it comes to Friday being an open campus for students if they get the permission slips from their parents, which that was already went out at the beginning of the year. So it very much depends on the school districts because there's difference between the two, not huge, but subtle.
Yeah. And she brings up a good point. How this is going to affect the Friday Crossroads open campus?
Friday is not a day that is, I'm going to defer to a few Crossroads teachers if they're in the audience as well. But that's not an attendance day, right? That's
It is, if they have, if they're not family in classes, they're not assigned Friday school, they're family class, they're assigned, kids that are passing will still come to support others or to be a part of it. The open campus piece is your permission to leave prior to, Friday school is until 11, because that's when our 11, maybe 11:30, something like that, because that's when the Lake Stevens bus leaves. So the open campus is that permission to leave earlier, or, they can, because otherwise then they would be tied to being on our campus until 2 o'clock. So that's what that paper.
Yeah, our Friday school is designed for academic intervention. So if we have students that need one-on-one support with a teacher outside of the traditional classroom setting, then they are assigned to come in to meet with those teachers and get that help in the classes that they need. As far as whether it's attendance or not, typically if they're not assigned but they show up, we do still mark them as being present. So if we do have an emergency, we know who was on a campus. So I think Lexi brought up a really great point where, on Fridays, the expectation is that they need that academic intervention and they come in and they get that academic intervention to the point that they're satisfactory. Would the closed campus policy still apply in that setting versus, it's in the middle of the day and a student leaves to go to our amazing coffee shop right across the street. So I think that's where that question is on those Fridays where the intention is for them to get that one-on-one support once that's been adhered to and they are now satisfactory. How this policy apply?
How do you, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I mean, the verbiage allows, it appears, for some discretion because it says unless officially excused.
That's what I was gonna ask. Like, how do you excuse? Is it okay to talk directly a bit, by the way, David? I'll ask Dana. I'm wondering how kids at Crossroads are officially excused on Friday.
I think that could be addressed through our procedure. I want to be clear that we already have a closed campus policy in place. This is not new. This is just, we've taken the two policies and made them. It was a policy that had 3 things in it, random, like driving, closed campus, and there was one more piece. Yeah, it was something else like lunch has to be where the principal says it is or something like that. It was really odd. And we hadn't updated it since 1982. Okay. And so that's the reason that we want, and because when you write procedures, you want them to, and so we already have a closed campus policy. So if we need to address something in procedure, something special that we have with Crossroads, then that's very different than changing from a closed campus to an open campus. So this is consistent with the policy that already exists. And it sounds like we need some procedural language to address Fridays at a specific.
Yeah, I mean, I personally have said in a couple of different school safety seminars and stuff where they talk about safety related to open campuses and vulnerabilities of those doors open and people passing if that happens. And, you know, some situations that have happened nationally that I don't even need to go into where, you know, bad things have happened because someone angry went home and came back, yada, yada, yada. So I don't disagree from a safety standpoint. It makes sense. I guess the reason I'm asking the question is, and we write policy, you write procedures, that there is flexibility for Friday school to be like, yeah, you're done at 11, dude. You don't have to sit here till 2. Like, see you
Right,
later,
right.
you know? Yeah. And it sounds like that's going to be here, so I'm fine with it.
Okay, you have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the first and second reading to adopt policy 3242 closed campus.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then just going along the same lines, the first and second reading to amend policy 3243 slash 3243P, student driving.
So this is just a revision of the policy that we already
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, this is the one that had all 3 things in it.
Yeah.
And so now it will just be what WASA's recommendation. It was adopted on June 11th, 1982.
Mhm.
Now it's just student driving. And so changing a little bit of the WASA recommendation to cover some legal and risk pieces around student driving. And then, of course, the closed campus has now been moved to 3242. And the removal of just that students who bring their lunch to school will eat where the principal says.
Okay, I'd like to I make a motion. I make a motion that we accept the first and second reading to amend policy 3243, student driving.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next up is the first and second reading to amend policy 3245 slash 3245P telecommunication devices.
So is it okay if I just, it's interesting that this comes up because I had a conversation with our other representative in the 39th. And she was saying that this session that she is trying to push a statewide ban of cell phones in schools. And she was asking my thoughts, and we don't need to go into necessarily my thoughts about that, but there seems to, I know that there's been a number of districts that have passed policies to ban cell phones. And, you know, I'll lean on the educational professionals like yourself, Dana, to tell me if that's a good idea or not. But I guess it's interesting that in the midst of that, you know, we're modifying a policy that allows students to still have a cell phone, and not saying it's the bad thing, but I guess it's interesting. So do you want to touch on that or?
Right. So limited changes to this policy is what's recommended right now.
Right.
Off and away is the rule during academic times, and we would appreciate everyone to adhere to that. There's lots of big feelings about this. This is a big discussion. Parents want our students to have access, or their students to have access sometimes in case there's an emergency or something like that. So until we, whatever, it would defer to the board and maybe a study session on if there's more that we would like to do as a system. But right now it's just during lunch and they're off and away during all academic times. I think the other big piece that's on here, and it's highlighted in green, is that students will not use their telecommunication devices in a manner that poses a threat to academic integrity, disrupts the learning environment, or violates the privacy rights of others. That is a really important one. Anyone who has worked in education at all knows that lots of times there's issues that happen during the school day when cell phones are being used. So There's some AI pieces in there too, and those kind of things, or using them during class. So I would recommend that we go with WASDA's recommended policy, which this is right now. It adds some components. And if we would like to be more restrictive than this, then I think that is some work that the board and I need to do.
Yeah, and I would be interested to hear the thoughts of students and before we did something like that, because like you said, there's a lot of big feelings on that, and it would be interesting to see a statewide mandate from to ban all cell phones and how you police that, and I don't know.
There's some pretty clear research on when cell phones are not used in class and the increase in academic engagement, and social engagement, and those kind of things. That research is very clear. The total ban, I don't know that offhand.
Yeah.
I do know when educators hold to the policies that we have in place, the off and away, that we do see more engagement.
I've had some discussions as well with parents and everything too. And so the feedback that I've gotten is there's outward communication and inward communication, right? And so in an event of an emergency, right, we talk about the horrible things that happen and everything. Parents' worst nightmare is that they don't have any contact with their child, right? So that's where I see a complete ban falling woefully short. The contact inward, right, which is, okay, so let's say it's off, it's not completely banned. If in case of emergency, they could turn it on and reach out or something along those lines. What about coming in? Again, I can't do procedure or anything like that, but I would strongly recommend that we would then make a commitment to, in an inward emergency situation, right? The parent needs the child for something, right? There needs to be some sort of a commitment or promise that if the office is reached by the parent, that the child will be reached in no less than 5 minutes, something along those lines, right? Because there has to be that open line of communication. If that's not there, then, I mean, again, it's making it something. Just because it's a rule doesn't mean it's always going to be followed. And so we need to make it something that is understandable, enforceable, and reasonable, I guess. So.
And I'll just, and I support the changes here, so don't think of this as negative, but I will say as a parent, right? Like in the ways that you can inward and outward communicate now. I mean, my son was texting me last school year, and I'm like, how are you texting me? I have your phone. He's like, oh, my Apple Watch, right? Like, are we going to police Apple Watches now too? And I was like, I didn't even. I was like, oh,
right? So
yeah.
It's all devices. That question has been asked, especially by our elementary, right, staff. And it is all devices. So I don't know about police, but the expectation is that off and away.
Yeah.
And
Does that include GPS watches?
I think it's yeah, it would anything that could communicate out, right? And so this covers all telecommunication devices of any sort. So if it's communicating back and forth in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
We want our students to be present and engaged, and so our teachers who do the hard work can, increase student learning.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the first and second reading to amend policy 3245 telecommunication devices.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, the first and second reading to amend policy number 3700, nutrition, health, and physical education, student wellness policy to 6700.
That is the only change to this one. It is misnumbered. And it is a policy that is rich with things. So it is one that we want to have correctly numbered so that when an update comes, that we're properly getting it updated. It's one that has had a lot of revisions, but I think it's one that we all need to have our eyes on, and we'll continue to put some policies out to our staff and include them maybe in staff news, a policy of focus. This is a wellness policy, but it has nutrition, health, and wellness. There's just a lot to this and the procedures around it. So I would encourage all staff members to be very aware of this policy.
Okay.
I move that we accept the first and second reading to amend policy number 3700, nutrition, health, and physical education to 6700.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
7E, first reading to adopt policy 5254, staff expression.
Well, this is just the first reading of this, and not, is this just driven by WASDA or?
We don't have this policy in place right now. And I would say, I have not seen a district that doesn't have this policy in place. So I think it's one that I would love for you all to review and let me know if there's any questions that I can answer.
So on the second reading, we'll obviously update the district and they'll be on the, okay, all that stuff, yeah. Yeah, actually, in reading it, I'm surprised that we don't. I mean, I think we have pieces of this in other policies,
Yes, I
but
agree.
but not one that's got it all together.
I agree.
Any other discussion? No, I move that we accept the first reading to adopt policy 5254, staff expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to item number 8, the consent agenda with additions.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? Nope. All
Then it
right,
passes by
so then it
unanimous consent.
passes by unanimous consent. That brings us to adjourning. Where's my little fancy gavel? The time is now 7:11, and that concludes this meeting of the Granite Falls School Board.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you, everyone.
Lil.